We live in a golden era of indie games. Each and every month, thousands of games are released. Some become big hits right away, like Celeste, Undertale, Hades, Shovel Knight. The list is endless. Some take a few more years to come around. Fear and Hunger has quite the cult following now, but it took over 3 years to explode into relevance. There are simply too many games to keep track of, and too many to keep up with. But despite that, I intend for this video to be a rallying cry. I'm asking you to try new things, play weird and experimental games, explore your favourite genres, or discover new ones. And in order to do so, I'm going to tell you about a game called Felvidek. Felvidek is an RPG Maker game released in March of 2024. It sports a whopping 98% overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam and only costs €10. But I've basically never heard people talk about it. The game caught my eye with its beautiful art direction and captivating Steam description. In Felvidek, a JRPG set in 15th century Slovakia, you embrace the role of an alcoholic knight Pavel. Meet diverse and interesting characters to help you drive out the Hussites and the Ottomans who blight this land. And I can't really hope to summarize it any better. This is a pretty simple and short game. However, I think it does something surprisingly interesting in both game design and story, and I'd love to tell you all about it. So join me and delve into one of the many beautiful and weird indie games releasing every day. And I hope it serves to motivate you in playing this game or something else that might draw your attention in the way Felvidek stole mine. The first thing anyone will really notice about this game is its art style. A beautifully crafted, almost graphical effect covers the surprisingly realistic art. The animation quality is out of this world. The game opens with this beautiful 3D cutscene. In these cutscenes, the characters act and emote without any words, and it shows a pretty clear skill in storytelling. The game has surprisingly different styles in its top-down exploration, character art, in-game battles, and those occasional cutscenes. But they are all layered with that dithering effect that makes the whole thing feel united. It really is gorgeous. It gives both a simplicity and implied depth that matches the setting and the tone of the game. Felvidek revels in the past. Every line is written with a clear love and attention to detail for the history in which it takes place, but we'll get more into that later. Now, as I've mentioned, this is an RPG Maker title, though it does some pretty interesting things mechanically within the engine. Battles are pretty standard fare, basic attacks and your special attacks with additional effects that consume your mana, or in this game they're called tools. But what's more interesting is how it breaks from RPG conventions. You cannot level up in this game. You do not become more powerful through battle. Instead, your moves and abilities are determined by the equipped weapon in hand. The only way to increase stats besides equipment are rare items that give a permanent bonus to one, but those are few and far between. These systems aren't used for some grand design, but instead allows the game to really keep careful control of your progress. Not to mention it greatly rewards the few times you are able to discover things of your own accord and gain a new weapon or a powerful consumable item to hold on to. It isn't exactly revolutionary, but it serves the game quite well. Every fight feels challenging, but possible. Every item feels useful. But more than any of that, it makes the world feel grounded, so there isn't much of a feeling of the supernatural. The game isn't going for immersion, but I absolutely think there is a merit in having mechanics match and aid the context the game takes place in. It creates synchronicity between the world and the gameplay, which is quite the beautiful effect. And most of all, it makes for far more of an impact when the game does start to dip its toes into things beyond the scope of reality. Eldritch beings, resurrections, and a cult that might be more powerful than possibly imagined. Overall, I would say the game's strengths lie in its simplicity. The damage and health is all relatively low, which means you're always on top of just how much is being taken of each. You're more considerate to each hit because of it. You're only given a few options in combat, but they're meaningful and they're small differences. If you do a sweeping attack, you might not kill one enemy at first, meaning they'll still have 4 attacks against you, but you might deal a higher total damage spread out than you can with any single hit. You aren't showered in consumables, so choosing where and when to use them carries a greater weight. All of this kind of puts you in the shoes of the gritty historical setting. Stricter and simple mechanics allow you to embody the character better. You're left thinking about the same choices the character would be considering. You aren't mulling over potential builds, stat allocation, and optimal magic usage. Instead, you feel like a knight. Should you use the mace, which is better for bludgeoning and stunning enemies regardless of armor? Or the spear, which gives you a better ability to take on bigger groups at once, keeping them all at bay? It's fun on its own, but subtly immerses you all the same. Now, the soundtrack stuck out to me quite intensely as I played. You're hearing it now, and it's quite an anachronistic prog rock album. But he ended up falling in love with the bizarre split in tone it gives, until it begins to match up with the more bizarre inhuman elements the story ends up going with in the end. Some of the tricks are quite intense and upbeat, while others do manage to slow things down and add to the atmosphere of the scene. But all of it is very engaging. Now let's get into the story. Just as the Steam description explains, you play as Avdol, an alcoholic knight in search of his ex-wife. Obviously, with a protagonist like this, I'd expect quite the overtly depressing and oppressive tone. Though honestly, it's kind of the opposite. As Avdol explores this world of ancient standards and restrictive religious beliefs, he treats it with an odd, apathetic brevity. It's really refreshing. With him is Matej, a holy priest who thoroughly disapproves of Avdol's sinful ways of life. He hopes to cleanse the man, though routinely struggles with that during a quest. The game begins as, in a drunken stupor, Avdol witnesses a large explosion out of his window. He quickly rushes to tell his commander, who sends him along with Matej to investigate the nature of the blast. From there, the two begin to unravel the growing tendrils of a mysterious cult, amidst the racial and religious tensions between them and the Hussites. I don't really know how to pronounce that word, I hope it's okay. This pulls the duo along the local lands, discovering many interesting characters as the story blossoms. It's a very linear narrative, but there are some small branches the player can choose to investigate or leave alone. I always like at least a little bit of agency in the story. Returning to a character after their first encounter and finding out what has happened to them since, things like that give you a bit more options as you move through. Maybe even doing something for them and having them join you again for a bit. It fills the world out a bit more, helps the illusion of reality, of real people with real wants. Overall, I don't think the story has too many strong themes I really walked away with. I would describe it more as a mood piece than aiming to bestow some moral message on the player. It's something I don't think is engaged with enough. Video games is a vibe. Every interaction, story beat, or just next step in the journey is just dripping with personality. It's an experience to behold. All of this is punctuated by the incredibly written dialogue. I'm such a fan of rote and needlessly complex methods of speech, and this game is sopping wet with it. While of course not accurate to the 15th century Slovak dialogue, the English in the game feels ancient and deliberate. I believe the game launched in Slovak well as English, because I think that sort of thing is super interesting, but I couldn't find any direct sources. Regardless, all I can comment on is the amazing English dialogue. It kept me incredibly entertained throughout the whole thing. It's not going to test your reading comprehension or anything, but I'm glad to see more games written in a style not as common. Reminds me of the first Dragon Quest game. It's super fun. This leads me back to my main point. I just love and desire all sorts of games set in all sorts of settings with all sorts of styles. The medium is deceptively new, and I think only truly exploded in scope with the growing ease of development modern tools like Unity, Unreal, or RPG Maker allow. There's so much potential in every type of game in every type of place, and I think the medium as a whole grows richer with each and every release like this. So I'm going to end this video about recommending a small indie game by recommending some more small indie games, to spark your interest and hopefully get you out there experiencing some new wacky stuff. Firstly, there is Fly Night, a small first-person action game that came out earlier this year. It's reminiscent of Kingsfield and its ilk, but is like 100 times more playable. There's a shocking number of fun weapons, none really better than the others, but just offering new combat options. You swing with specific directions to hack off the limbs of your enemies. The world is populated with a fun assortment of bug enemies and characters, and there's a silly fishing game mechanic. A large part of it is the ability to play with your friends, though I never did and still had an amazing time. It's only a few hours long, and it costs $6, so give it a shot. 1000X Resist is a narrative sci-fi adventure. It's set in a staggeringly unique dystopic future where everything is dedicated to the All-Mother. You slowly unravel the secrets that hide in the past as the game goes on. It's very simple mechanically, but incredibly well written. It managed to stay varied and engaging the whole time, never feeling like a walking simulator. The art style is absolutely gorgeous, and I found the story incredibly affecting. It touches on a number of heavy themes, all with beautiful grace. It is a beefier 10-hour experience, and goes for about €20 when not on sale. Freak Hunter is a first-person shooter dungeon crawler. You explore these labyrinths and exterminate the many freaks hidden within. It is as much an action game as it is a puzzle game. If you have even the slightest appreciation of old-school dungeon RPGs or things of that sort, please give this game a try. My brain lights up anytime I move down a hallway one block at a time. It's only a few hours long and also costs $4, so there's no reason not to try. Well, thank you for watching my video. I don't have too much more to say for now, so if you liked this, go ahead and subscribe. See you next time.